Oh boy, oh boy. We got a new Blaire White video, guys. And for once, she's not talking about dumb fuck trans culture war shit. She's talking about right-wing dumb fuck culture war shit. Anti-white TikTok is the wildest thing you've ever seen. I know, we're getting some Blaire White commentary on race politics. Something new for once. For those that don't know, Blaire White is like just a massive, soulless, demonic liar. I've called her out on some of the most like blatant, obvious lies ever that just demonstrate she has no goals whatsoever other than essentially making it so that her audience believes anything she says, and thinks that she is a perfect little libertarian, trans, one of the good ones, essentially, right? Like, she basically does the whole pick me thing and grifts for lots of money and pretends to be a political affiliation that she isn't. Like, we've literally shown that she lied about her political compass test results. She wants to keep her audience happy. She wants to make sure they don't even think to fact check anything she says, that anything she says is true, and you don't need to fact check it. Don't Google anything she says.
First of all, if you are a male monster,
whiteness needs to end.
White people do not inherently have empathy.
You're full of hate, right? Full of darkness, full of ugliness.
I will say the left does need... Okay. Something that I think people need to realize is the internet is completely transforming the landscape of politics. Like, the internet is transforming what politics is. The way that politics has existed for so long, and how we've known it to exist for a very long time, is not going to be a thing anymore very soon. The internet allows any group and any idea to flourish, as long as it's presented well enough. One of the biggest problems with this is the fact that the internet is very quickly becoming the primary battleground for all forms of discussion. As much as I say people are terminally online and they need to touch grass and all that stuff, I will also say that the internet matters. We can't pretend like the internet doesn't matter, right? Like, when things you've said on the internet can prevent you from getting a job in real life, you can't really say that what people say and do online doesn't matter, you know? And because of that, I've started to grow really wary of this common phrase, this really annoyingly common phrase. I don't like this term. I hate it so much. It's just the internet. Like, the online, it's just the online left. It's just internet lefties. It doesn't matter. Unfortunately, what matters is what people think is the left is represented by. And right now, people like Hassan and crazy TikTok lefties are the representation of the left most people think of. And I think it's important that those that are not like that, those that are not part of that group, make it very clear we are not with them, that they are not who we are advocating for. They are not the ones that we are trying to defend or take the side of. The tankies, the woke scolds, etc. I think now more than ever we need to, like, actually cut ourselves off from those groups.
Full of low vibrations, and you are a hoe. Oh, hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Blaire White. Not a pun for the theme of today's video. The amount of people that ask me on a regular basis, whether it's a comment, a tweet, an email, a hater, sent by carrier pigeon girl, or even people who know me in real life often.
Blaire White's style does not vibe with me, okay? It doesn't. It literally makes my eyes glaze over and my blood clot.
After knowing me for 6 to 9 months, like a pregnancy, finally work up that courage to ask, maybe over a tequila, is White your real last name? It's like a joke, right? We're just trying to be edgy. Oh my God, I get it. It's like a racist joke, right? I know a lot of things about me are fake, right? About 26 of them are on camera right now, just this upper half of my body.
God, she's so fucking self-hating, dude. Jesus. She's trying to couch self-hatred in self-aware humor.
But, you know, I am holding on to one of the few last real things I have, which is that last name. That's just my last name. Don't know how else to say it. Because one of the things you become aware of when you have the slightly niche experience, right, of having the last name White is just how many people are really walking through the world that are genuinely triggered by the word white, just the word. And then it's a more logical conclusion.
Okay. There are definitely crazies out there. I just went on a rant about how we need to excise those people from the left, but let's not pretend like you're going out in the world and people are getting offended by the word white, okay? No one not even the craziest lefties are offended by the word white. Well, I guess maybe some, to be fair. They might. I've actually seen crazy lefties on Twitter censor the word white. They use the term YT as well. Yeah. She deserves her self-hatred. She tries so hard to earn it. That is true.
To them that I am joking that my last name is White, that I must be trying to hurt people, then that's really just my last name. So that's demented. So today we're venturing into anti-white TikTok. And you know, I can hear the Poindexters in the comments right now. Why are you focusing on anti-white TikTok, Blaire? Why don't you focus on insert any other race here TikTok? Well, you know, if it existed, that'd be great. But as of now, as of 2023, white is the literal only race that you can say horrendous things about, wish upon, and not be banned off every social media platform and not have your life ruined. So
this is objectively not true when Twitter exists. You could have said this maybe 2 years ago, that was the case, that like white people were the only group that you could just like openly shit talk for humor and like get away with it. But Elon Musk has made Twitter like 90% of your timeline of viral posts are like neo-Nazi memes about how the Jews control like black people to cuck white people or whatever. Like literally today on my timeline was a meme where it was like the happy merchant with some like puppeteer strings controlling a Wojak of George Floyd. And it's like, I forget what the rest of the meme was, but it was just a Nazi racist meme with like 20,000 likes. Like, you can absolutely be racist on big social media now. This stopped being true the second Elon started instilling his values on Twitter. But not only that, even before that, trans people were included in this, okay? Dave Chappelle is one of, if not the biggest comedian in the world right now, and his entire shtick is transphobia now. He literally just like did a meet and greet with Lauren Boebert, who's a like insane conspiracy theorist, QAnon Republican politician, because he's that dedicated to transphobia.
Oh, until that changes, let me know.
First of all, if you are a mayo monster,
you couldn't lube me up a little bit first?
I will say, why is she taking the position that these people are soft and snowflakey for being offended by white people, when the whole point of the video is her being offended by anti-white racism? Like, you can't really claim the high ground of, like, being the tough, you know, no blood from a stone type, while also making a video in the same breath where you're getting offended at anti-white racism. Also, how can you be offended at Mayo Monster? That's just funny. Yeah.
Sis, oh my God. Points for creativity, but
that is how your ancestors got everything from stealing.
Which, by the way, the Q-tip people are the last ones to ever talk about somebody stealing anything. Y'all wouldn't be in this country had it not been for y'all.
Q-tip people? Is it because Q-tips are white? I guess sometimes they're white, but I've seen pink ones and like green ones. But I guess they're, yeah, I'm okay. I guess that works. Because like a Q-tip kind of looks like a person. I've heard better ones though.
Y'all stealing it.
The Q-tip people. I think I do need a Q-tip. I will say that because clearly I'm a little congested because there is no way that I heard that stupid shit come out of your mouth in that distinctly unaware.
But I guess the cotton is always white? Well, I could make a really racist joke about the cotton of Q-tips, like in reverse then? Why would we bring that? Why in a joke that's supposed to be racist towards white people would we bring cotton into the conversation? Because you're basically just like setting up a pretty strong response at that point, you know? Like if you're trying to have a racism off, like you're basically giving the white racist ammo if you bring cotton into the conversation. That's the last word you want to mention. Yeah, you're basically setting up the white racist for a slave joke. Exactly. Yes, that's what I'm referencing. Yes, yeah, that's what we're talking about here. A racism off, okay?
That it's stupid tone of voice, as confidently as you said it. Okay, so tell me you are the result of the American public education system with actually.
Blaire, there is no way in hell. Okay, yeah, no shit. You should stop yourself because there's no way in hell you, in any way, shape, or form, are willing to grapple with the discussion around how our schools are funded, okay? Because you do not want our American schools funded. You are very against it.
Actually, tell me you're the victim of the American public education system without telling me. Because...
Well, actually, no. She's going to make some, like, the American education system is woke point here, not that it's underfunded.
For you to make a definitive statement about a group so broad...
Jesus, when she points her nose up in the air, you can see how much work she's had done because the way her nostrils are shaped.
And diverse, as white people, that entire race, for which there are a crap ton of different people under that, all with unique ancestry from different places in the world. That doesn't make sense. Another reason I've always found this talking point so bizarre is that it's said at a time in history where most people are mixed with a little bit of something other than white, even if they are white, right? So like,
is Blaire White actually going to try to make the 0.5% African argument right now? Is that what she's going to try to do? The 0.5% African argument? I'm actually 0.0005% African. I can say it.
How exactly am I supposed to calculate the exact amount of white guilt I'm supposed to feel for white people long before?
Well, whiteness is a social construct, not a genetic thing. You're kind of giving a lot away by indicating you think that just right off the bat. Literally like 100 years ago, less than 100 years ago, sorry, we didn't consider Irish people white. We at a certain point, we didn't consider Italians white. We didn't consider Polish people white. We didn't consider, God, how many other groups of pale-ass Europeans did we not consider white? There were so many. Ukrainians, I'm pretty sure, were not considered white at one point. Basically all Eastern Europeans. Basically take all Eastern Europeans and they weren't considered white. Italians still aren't white. I'd say Italians are white. Russians? I think Russians were the ones instilling what was and wasn't white, like, culturally. We didn't consider yeah, we definitely didn't consider Spanish white. Like when we were founding America, that's for sure. We now definitely consider Spanish white. Yeah, like the idea of what even is white is a completely subjective definition depending on who you talk to and what time period you're in, okay? Because trust me, New Yorkers in the 1920s and 1910s did not consider Irish people white, okay? They did not see themselves as with other Irish people as a fellow white man.
Before I was born, conquering North America, considering, I mean, I think I'm like 40-something% white, so there's that part, but I'm also 20%, a whopping 20% Indigenous American. So they came.
A whopping 20% Indigenous American. Wow. You realize that's just evidence of, like, almost certainly there having been, like, some, you know, at some point to create you, right? Like, it's not all that much of a flex. Epically owned 20% Native American. Wow.
And took the land from those people. The same thing every race does throughout history all the time, by the way. Conquer lands, forfeit lands, win lands, lose lands. Like, that's just what that is. Does the 20%...
Also, I don't believe a word of that from Blaire White, the woman who literally lied about her political compass test results, okay? I'm not trusting this woman when it comes to her 23andMe results, when we already proved she lied about her political compass test results definitively. She didn't change the link.
Indigenous American, negate.
She forgot to change the URL. And she lied about cervical cancer. Don't forget that. That's probably one of the most like demonstrable and blatant lies that I've called out from her is when she showed that clip from the Canadian Cancer Society, that like one paragraph. And then if you go to the website and read past that point, it goes on to say that trans women can get cervical cancer and they should get screened for it, which is the opposite of the argument Blaire was making. She used an article that claims that trans women can get cervical cancer to say that they don't, and spreaded very harmful medical misinfo. Yeah, she's just evil. She's actually just evil.
20% of the 40% of the whiteness that I'm supposed to feel guilty about? Like, let me know. Give me an equation.
Y'all are more focused on people looting and trying to get necessities and things that they need. And yes, a TV is a fucking necessity.
You feel like you're better than because people are out here stealing and you would never.
TVs are a necessity, apparently. Baby girl, I'm gonna need you to stay away from the TV. See, the TV has rearranged you neurologically into thinking that the you're believing here and saying so proudly with all your chest is true. The TV telling you things and you listening to it is why you've dwindled down to this dumb.
Blaire, your entire career is to tell people on the internet what they believe, okay? Your whole job is to tell people on the internet what they believe, okay? You don't get to do the whole you watch too much TV argument, dude. Like that's you don't get to do that. You've completely wrung yourself out of being able to make that argument the second you became someone who is on people's screens telling them what they should believe.
You know, I feel like most people, if you were to ask them, run a poll.
If Blaire was like some person living out in the jungle, surviving off the land, then she'd get to judge people for watching too much TV and getting their opinions from it. But no, she doesn't get to make that argument.
Would not agree that any individual should feel guilty or take ownership in some way over what someone else who happens to be of the same race of them is doing that's negative. So like the idea that you should take responsibility or feel bad or guilty about videos of people of your same race stealing TVs. The idea that you should feel guilty about that, that's dumb. You shouldn't. You're an individual. You're not the person stealing, right? But no one should feel guilty about what people are doing of the same skin color as them. That doesn't make
obviously, I don't disagree with the basic everybody agrees with this argument against the idea of white guilt, okay? Obviously, the sin of every other white person is not, like, imparted on every newborn white baby, okay? No one who matters is arguing this, obviously. Hey, a pillow.
Makes sense. However, for you to so confidently think that white people, however, must feel guilt for what white people who were born and dead long before they were born have done or did do, or even are said to have done, that doesn't make sense. And it kills me how people act like history is like a Disney movie with good guys and bad guys. And, you know, this group are the evil conquerors and this group are the poor victims. It's like, you know, history of humanity is a very long timeline of lands being conquered.
Okay, this is a nothing argument, Blaire. Come on. You don't... How... It's hilarious trying to watch a conservative attempt to argue against racism. Because they're not good at it. Because they are racist. So, and they don't know how to argue against racism when it's against them. It's really weird. Like... Once you become racist, you lose the ability to debunk any kind of racism, even if it's against your race. Does that make sense?
As melanin-deficient Europeans created whiteness in order to enslave Africans and commit wholesale genocide, yeah, whiteness needs to end.
And you know, with that beard and that hair color, you should take it.
This is actually Thought Slime if they get all of the Dragon Balls. Believe it or not. Like, if Thought Slime obtains all 6 Infinity Stones, this is the form that they take.
Seriously. You know, setting aside the fact that you have the audacity to publicly endorse a race ending, right? Setting that aside for just one moment, if we can, question, where exactly would that leave you, sir? Because, you know, the sickly
Okay.
yellow...
So basically the argument that's being made that, fuck you, Zan, that took me out. Okay, so basically, why is she orange? Spray tan. And tanning booths. I imagine she spends a lot of time with spray tan and tanning booths. Did Blaire shave off more of her nose? It seems that she did. I don't know how she breathes through those nostrils. It must be like having a cold 24/7. Anyway, basically this person's arguing that racism equals prejudice plus power. This is like a really common like SJW-y talking point from back in 2016. The idea that you can't be racist towards white people because white people are in a place of power, and like racism necessarily requires you to be part, like to be racist you necessarily have to have privilege, is the argument, which is complete bullshit. The only people who make this argument are those that want to like justify and make excuses for people who are unironically racist and hateful towards white people. Hate is not okay, even when it's against white people. I like making like occasionally racist jokes about white people because I recognize that within my audience there's a pretty low chance of people who actually, for example, I genuinely don't believe that a racist joke on its own is a morally bad thing. There are tons of racist jokes that I'll laugh at because it's just shock humor. Like, the punchline is that it is something horrible and awful to believe, and that can be funny if delivered, like, well, right? The problem with racist humor, or, like, in any form of, like, bigoted humor, is that it's usually done poorly, number one. And number two, it typically is feeding into or denoting values that I don't like racist values, right? Like racists tend to make racist jokes, or people who have some racist beliefs tend to make racist jokes, and they tend to be the ones who laugh at them. But at the same time, if you're progressive enough, there's a certain sort of like horseshoe theory point where you curve back around, and when you're progressive enough to fully understand why these bigoted ideas are wrong, jokes where the punchline are that bigotry become funnier on a completely different level, where the humor is the idea that people actually believe that shit. Does that make sense? I imagine many of you who are, say, transgender or gay in my chat with your friends that are also gay or transgender probably make a lot of, like, arguably transphobic jokes where the punchline is, yeah, it's transphobic, but the real humor is in that people are dumb enough to believe it, and you're kind of in private parodying bigots. I don't know if I'm really, like, wording it as well as I would like to, but I do think there's, like, this sort of, like, we've gone in full circle where, like, progressives can find offensive humor funny for a completely different reason than bigots or normies do. And so with that said, I think it's important to recognize that when I make, like, say, a joke that's racist against white people and I joke about Mayo monkeys or white name genocide in my chat, I do this under the understanding that if someone in my chat actually starts to demonstrate unironically genocidal beliefs about white people, I will immediately ban them and say, fuck out of here. I don't want to harbor people like you in my community. I can tell when you guys are just joking and we're actively... When we talk about white name genocide in the chat, we're making fun of the people who actually believe there's a white genocide. We're parodying their, like, we're acting like a parody of what they believe the left is that wants to white genocide them, if that makes sense. It's a little convoluted, but you guys get it, right? And I wouldn't make these jokes if I was concerned that people who are, like, laughing along with them actually agree with white genocide and think white genocide is good or funny.
Low tone to your skin color is not masking the Caucasianness. Listen, there are certain things that feel redundant to say, but clearly are so necessary. So it's gonna sound like I'm trying to introduce like 1 + 1 to you for the first time, or your colors, or, you know, your basic addition. But clearly this is needed.
Blaire, you don't need to teach this person about their colors. They already know.
Ask yourself why there is only one group that you can publicly go on social media, advocate for the end of, and not have your life dismantled because of it. I mean, you would never catch anyone up on camera. I mean, you would, but they'd be taken down instantly, saying that Asianness needs to end, blackness needs to end, Mexican.
the KKK exists. You know that, right? Like, you know there are actual hate groups, that, like, there are rallies where neo-Nazis get together with swastikas and they chant that shit, right? I mean, I know that her job relies on pretending like those people don't exist, and the left well, I think I love the way that Count Dankula worded it in the replies of Wendigoon's tweet. "Quote unquote, they think there are Nazis under their bed." Perfect way of describing it. That is what they want to convince their audience the left thinks, that there are Nazis hiding under their bed. That's the straw man. They need to make people believe that Nazis don't exist, and anybody saying that they do is just a crazy lefty who's overreacting over people not agreeing with them.
This needs to end. Like, what are you talking about? Psycho? Psychopath? Call me crazy. But I feel like there may be a little bit of an issue with the fact that, you know, our culture is firmly against racism, with a caveat.
Is it really, though? Is it really firmly against racism? I'd say popular culture is generally pretty firmly against racism, but, like, I don't know if I'd say that our entire culture is firmly against racism. The thing is that there isn't, like, a distinct American culture. The culture is so different depending on where you go. I mean, hell, the amount of, like, okay, so for example, even within a city, the culture can be very different, right? Like, populations vary a lot depending on what block you're on, and the values there can change, right? Like, on one street of a city, you might get called as a racial slur, and on another street of the city, you might run into a pride parade, right? So it's not really, there's no monolithic American culture. That's just, there's no way to say that, like, America's dealt with racism. America is, like, against racism already. You can't really say that when, like, sundown towns exist and, like, towns that are, like, practically owned by the KKK exist.
Oh no, we can't do that because y'all are actually letting your hate out that exists in you, that you don't have a single other group to unleash it on. Because every other group is off limits currently. I wish they
Well, no, I don't think it's that these people want a group to hate and they're just allowed to hate white people. I think it's they have, like, they have been brainwashed into hating white people for the same reason that people like Blaire have been brainwashed into hating brown people. Like, it's just, it's the same thing. It's not that, like, these people would be racist. Like you can be racist. There are racists. They're just racist against white people. Well, she's acting like there's no reason to be racist against white people, but there is a reason to be racist against non-white people. That's like the implication, right? That, like, you'd only be racist to white people because you can't be racist towards the other minority groups. But that's the implication she's making, is that there's no excuse to be racist towards white people, and you would be racist against other groups if you could. That's what she's arguing right now.
the same level of hatred for pedophiles as they do white people. I mean, wow.
I don't know.
When's the last time you saw someone like this speaking up on
into
the danger of pedophiles in the country? It's just whiteness, right?
You have a token white and you're hanging out with your friend group of color. You need to ask permission from everybody in the group
Dude, this TikTok is like 10 years old. What the fuck? I've seen this a million times.
to bring your white friend. Like, don't just bring them. Ask for explicit permission from everyone. Because just because you're comfortable with them doesn't mean that everybody's comfortable with them.
Listen, Mullet, you have been, as I often say,
Oh no. Okay, so for those that don't know, Blaire White really, really hates trans mask people who have mullets. Do you guys want to know why? I think Cherry recently retweeted this person. So I'm going to scroll Cherry's timeline to find this. Yep, here we go. When this person, Lane Loverboy, Anal Del Rey, absolutely fucking destroyed Blaire White on Twitter. And he's got the mullet. The mullet is one of the most common trans mask hairstyles these days. And so Blaire White is fucking super mad about it. Because if you're AFAB, it's a lot easier to grow your hair out longer. And so a mullet is like you have to be pretty powerful to be a cis dude and have a mullet. But if you're a trans dude, or like AFAB non-binary mask presenting, you can basically just grow out a mullet easy as shit. Like it's not even difficult. Like it's just you just do it. You just do it. Like it's not even hard. Like you just do it. Like you could grow the mullet on accident. I'm pretty sure it just forms and you have to manage your hair to keep it from happening. None of you here would last 5 minutes in a COD lobby. Yeah. But here's the thing. How long would the people in a COD lobby last 5 minutes in a room with me? In real life, if we had actual guns. That's the question. If we did COD in real life, how long would they last? Speaking of first-person shooters, by the way, you guys are going to be disappointed in me for this, but you know what game I recently got back into after quite some time of not playing it? Fortnite. They brought Peter Griffin into Fortnite, guys. Guys, they brought Peter back, all right? Peter, the horse is here.
Logically rearranged. I'm letting you know now. You've been neurologically rearranged by the corporate press, by wokeness, by your lived out social circle. They've moved things around. And they have brought you
I don't
to
know
this
what she's talking
delusion
about now. What do we...
that you can publicly say that there is a specific racial...
I'm sorry, but this did get 11,000 likes. Like, there is a pretty ridiculous bubble of people that feeds into this behavior. Blaire's not good at making arguments, so she's honestly kind of failing at making an argument I agree with here, so I'm doing it for her. But yeah, I mean, you can tell from the amount of support that this got that this person is in a bubble that rewards this kind of behavior.
Group of people that you don't want around you, and if you bring them around me, I'm gonna be upset. Gotta ask me permission. And you think that little rule you have does not place you under the exact definition of racist. You're racist. You're a hateful hoe.
Yes, that person is
I mean,
racist.
it's what you are. You're full of hate, right? Full of darkness, full of ugliness, full of low...
I would love to see Blaire White bring this energy out against somebody who's racist against brown people. Have we ever seen her bring this energy out against like a far right, like racist, like somebody who's in the KKK, somebody who's like going on a rant about how they don't like black people or like South American immigrants or something? Like have we ever seen her bring that energy out to defend any race that isn't white people? Because I don't think I can recall a single time she's brought this energy out to defend a race that isn't white people.
Vibrations, and you are...
I don't think it's the racism she's disgusted by.
A hoe.
On its own.
Lost my shade of thought there. When you can't think of any more insults, just say hoe. But you know, hoe, you are like...
I might not be in the mood to deal with white shenanigans that day. That's all I'm saying. And another thing, it feeds into their ego. Like, don't let them think they're a good white person.
I like how these people go through life assuming that everyone around them is also equally as sick and deranged and obsessed about race as they are. So like in their head, if a white person's around them, they're getting an ego boost.
She's fairly on point about this criticism. This person is obsessed with race, and the concept of race lives too frequently in their head. Like, the race of a person that you're talking to or that you've just met should not be the first thing that like goes through your mind about them, right? Like, that shouldn't that shouldn't be how you make your brain work.
Damn. That's your impact, mullet? It's that strong?
She's
Getting
so
an ego
mad
boost
about
just
the
by
mullet.
being around you.
Dude.
That's your impact?
That trans dude on Twitter that posted the fucking trans dude titty pic with the mullet and everything to trigger transphobes, how I look with he, him pronouns in my bio. Like, he lives rent-free in Blaire's head. He really does live rent-free in Blaire's head. It's actually hilarious. No, Blaire's not flipping off the guy. She's doing this, like this kind of motion, like a kind of like a half point, like the upside down Valley Girl like point. I've seen it. It's a very Southern girl kind of behavior. She lives in Texas now. She's trying to appropriate the culture.
If BIPOC stand in the street and scream at the top of their lungs, I hate all white people, I want all white people to go dead, white devil, you cracker.
God, this lady's white guilt is like overwhelming the camera. She really needs to turn down the exposure.
That's still not racism. That's discrimination. It's an action that's bred out of a prejudice.
Discrimination can or can't be racist. Like, let's say discrimination can be homophobic discrimination, racist discrimination, sexist discrimination. Discrimination is not a separate thing from racism. Discrimination is an act that can be racist. So in this case, you are describing a racist act that is discrimination against a racial group. I gotta debunk the dumb fuck lefty arguments too, guys.
Prejudice, for sure. Justified, arguably.
Okay. Mullet might have been onto something, because that ego boost,
She's so... that guy lives rent-free in her head. She's so bent out of shape over that dude. Anil Del Rey, I think his name is. Fuck. She is mad. The mullet is just like burned into the back of her eyelids, I guess. She sees it when she blinks.
Actually am seeing it here. She thinks she's really getting some sort of social capital by saying this horrendous shit. That's the thing they do though, right? They will say, no, it's prejudice. It's not racist. So you don't like the word racist? Okay, let's find some other words. Hate monger, hater, brutally basic, trifling, low vibrational, dumb, uninspiring, demonic, devil, demon.
Dude, the people that Blaire is responding to are more entertaining than her. Like, for me, at least, as, like, the person who's got to debunk arguments. Like, they are more interesting characters, cartoon characters for me to debunk the bizarre arguments from than Blaire is. Like, Blaire's just doing annoying, cringe Zoomer edits to try to keep the watch time of her audience up.
White people do not inherently have empathy, and it's something that I've talked about for more than a year. And one of the reasons is because it has not been modeled. If you look at the epigenetic nature of white folks, especially European Americans, white American people, there is this long-standing history of violence, and there has been no effort,
Okay. The reason why white people have been white, as we call them now, people have been the ones, because, like, remember, guys, Spanish people who did what we consider to be Latin American today exists due to the colonialism, the rape, the pillaging, and the conquering of the Spanish, right? We consider them white nowadays. We consider them, the conquistadors, to be white colonizers nowadays. They were not considered white by the rest of Europe back in the day, nor were Eastern Europeans. These groups that did all of this, like, barbaric colonization shit, those groups were only considered white in very recent history, for starters. Number two, the only reason why we didn't have, like, a great, like, African colonizer thing where there was, like, African colonizers in South America, African colonizers in Asia and the Pacific, like, island nations, is because very, very quickly Europe and other surrounding powers began crushing a lot of African nations. And very quickly in modern history, within, like, the last 110 years, I think it's been, roughly 110, 120 years, we started crushing the Middle East. The British played a big part in crushing a lot of the Middle East's technological advancement. Like, prior to World War I, the Middle East was doing very well, and was on track to be just the same as America. The British bombed the absolute fuck out of much of the Middle East, turned it into a fucking war zone, slaughtered countless natives. There's a lot of fucking historical reasons why we didn't see a lot of brown people doing colonization, brown people as we'd call them today. And it has to do with the fact that the white people did the colonization first. But if we hadn't done that first, they would have done it too. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's not a white people unique thing to do colonization and horrible barbaric war crimes, right? Like, you can look to the East for that. You know, like there are plenty of non-white people that are doing horrific shit, like on a world scale.
Intentions, no
Turns out humanity is just fucking awful.
work for white people to unpack it. So it doesn't really matter what type of community. It doesn't matter what the effort. White people don't have any practice in doing anything that is anti-oppressive. The things they have practiced doing together is violence.
Empathy has never been modeled. I am so glad that the arbiter of empathy, human kindness, has spoken. Bang that.
That is a very good way to describe her. Blaire is like if Sniper Wolf was into politics. She looks like Sniper Wolf too, and I've always gotten that vibe from her, but I never like had the words to say it. She's just the Sniper Wolf of politics.
Gavel, final word from Miss Empathy over here, who cannot find enough empathy in her own demented body to believe beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Okay, I actually can't. I can't watch Blaire White fail to debunk racism anymore. She can't even, like, racist conservatives are so stupid and so uninformed about, like, racism in America, which they claim doesn't exist, that they lack the arguments to debunk racism conceptually, and so they fail to debunk anti-white racism when it actually exists and is indisputably just being screamed in their face. It's actually pathetic. Like, I'm a lefty, and I can actually debunk anti-white racism just as well as I can debunk anti-black racism, anti-Latino racism, anti-Asian racism, any group racism, right? Anti-Canadian racism, which I am a Canadian anti-Canadian racist, but you know, I feel I can at least argue against the beliefs that I hold, right? So, you know, I don't know. We do a little trolling.